Coming into this movie, I was hoping for one thing, and it's that I was hoping nobody would come into the theater to my screening of the movie in formal attire.
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Thankfully, that didn't happen. Hi, I'm Jack, and welcome back, because today I'm going to give you guys a review for the newest installment in the Despicable Me franchise, Minions: The Rise of Gru. It is the sequel to the first Minions movie, and it brings back Steve Carell as a younger Gru alongside Michelle Yeoh and many other voice actors, and it is directed by Carell, Balda, and with that said, let's get started. Set in the 1970s, Minions: The Rise of Gru follows a young Gru and the Minions as he attempts to join a group of dangerous supervillains known as the Vicious Six. However, when things go south real fast, Gru and his minions go on the run from the Vicious Six, while Gru turns to a source of guidance with Wild Knuckles and soon discovers that even bad guys need a little help. Aside from the fact that Steve Carell is voicing a young Gru in this movie, I didn't really have any expectations for this movie, only because while I love the first Despicable Me film, I wasn't too big on the second movie, and I was not a fan of Minions or Despicable Me 3, so I wasn't really quite as actively looking out for this movie, especially when it first came out a few weeks back. But hearing good reception from this movie had me very curious that could this be a return to form for the franchise? Could it do what the first Minions didn't do great at? And so I was curious to see this movie for myself, and especially with word of mouth, and that maybe Illumination finally does it again with this movie. But what do I think about it after viewing it? I thought it was surprisingly fun. It's a fun movie. It is a far better film than the first Minions. It's a better sequel, and it is my favorite installment in the Despicable Me franchise since that very first film. Kicking things off with the positives, I love the voice cast here. Obviously, I love me some Steve Carell. I love him as Michael Scott, but I also love him as characters like Mitch Kessler from The Morning Show, Gru, and even in other projects he's been in. He's a very great, talented, and underrated actor. I think he is fabulous. And you also have Michelle Yeoh, who's really great, coming off of Everything Everywhere All at Once, which is one of my favorite films of the year. And so as Julie Andrews and Russell Brand and Jean-Claude Van Damme and Pierre Coffin. There's a great voice cast here. All of them do really well. And it's also a very well-paced movie. I never felt bored, and it felt like with this kind of story that's being told, I was always entertained and mostly invested by what was playing out on screen. And not just that too, but I love the focus on young Gru. And the first half of the movie I think was actually really strong. Whenever it focuses on young Gru and the Vicious Six and that side of things, I was invested, and it made me feel like this was more of a Despicable Me movie than a Minions movie. And that was for the better, because I actually am really engaged in this film whenever we were following a young Gru. Really liking a lot of that, and it's also a well-animated movie, and there are some really funny moments. Illumination is very hit or miss when it comes to humor for me. They always go for the lowest, easy way for me to get a laugh, and sometimes it doesn't always work. But I actually laughed and chuckled quite a few times throughout this movie, more than I expected. It is very funny. There's some great moments. There are even some entertaining musical numbers throughout the film that I think are actually really clever, really funny, and really just cool to see how they play out. And not just that too, but there's some great story ideas here, especially with Vicious Six, Gru, Minions trying to find Gru. It is a really good story idea here, and I think the way these things play out is done really well. And if you're a fan of the Despicable Me franchise and you love the Minions, this movie is going to be an absolute blast for you guys. If you weren't a fan of the franchise, you weren't a fan of Minions or Despicable Me stuff, this movie probably is not going to do anything for you, and you might find this movie to be annoying. If there's one thing I found out of this movie that I didn't get much out of in the previous installments in the franchise, it's heart. I found quite a good chunk of heart to be found in Minions: Rise of Gru, especially with Gru and Wild Knuckles with the Vicious Six. I actually found some moments of this movie that are actually pretty emotional to sit through, especially for the film. There are moments here where I actually was able to care for young Gru and just what was happening at play, that I actually was invested to the point where when things go badly or bad things are happening to our characters, I actually felt for them, and I really enjoyed that here. It's not only just a movie that can be really entertaining to watch, but it also has some good emotional moments to find. And I think the film is at its strongest whenever it focuses on young Gru and that side of things. That's where I think the movie really shines, and it feels like a Despicable Me movie rather than a Minions sequel. But the Minions, like Kevin, Stuart, and Bob, and Otto, there are some great moments that happen with the Minions that will definitely get a laugh out of you, considering just how you feel about the Minions. Whenever they're just background characters, I think the movie actually shines and does things really well. And hardcore Despicable Me fans, there are going to be Easter eggs all throughout this movie that you are going to love. And I can tell you for a fact that there are Easter eggs here that I really enjoyed. On the negatives, though, I do feel like while there is a great story idea here and it's significantly better than the first Minions movie, I do feel like they could have explored some things more, and a few aspects in this movie feel kind of random. It feels like it was there to just expand the runtime to make it a feature-length film. So some aspects of the story I was not quite as interested or as intrigued in as others. And also the fact that when the movie focuses on the Minions, just the Minions alone, I wasn't quite as excited because I feel like the Minions can only do so much before what they do can get weird. So I feel like when the movie focuses on Gru, it's at its best. When it focuses on the Minions with Gru all together, that's where it really does a good job at. But when it focuses on the Minions on their own, like no Gru, no Vicious Six, then the movie kind of gets hindered quite a bit from it, because I love Gru, the Minions, those characters that I don't think they work as a standout focus for the film. And I feel like while there are some really great moments happen with the Minions, especially whether they're with Gru and in the climax and action sequences, I do think this movie shows me that the Minions work far better when they're just background characters rather than the main characters at play. Those are my only issues. Nothing too major, but I do feel like if they focus more on young Gru, then the movie would shine even more. Some things can be shifted around with the story. Then the movie could actually be even better. But with what we got, I was still satisfied. It was fun. It was surprising. I enjoyed it a lot more than I thought I was going to. And it's easily like a return to form for the Despicable Me franchise, and easily my favorite movie since that original film. I love the voice cast, like the story ideas. There's some heart, humor, entertainment, and even some great musical numbers throughout the film. And if you're a fan of the Minions and Despicable Me franchise, then this movie is definitely worth seeing when you can watch it. So in the end, I'm going to give Minions: The Rise of Gru a B. Considering how I feel about Illumination Studios, this was a surprise. I enjoyed the movie a lot more than I thought I was going to. Again, had my issues with it, but I still had an entertaining time with this movie nonetheless, and it's always great to see Steve Carell in anything, even as a young Gru. I'm wondering what they're going to do with the Despicable Me 4 when we follow an adult Gru, but for now, this was a win for Illumination Studios, and I really enjoyed it, and I hope that if you guys are a fan of the franchise, that you should go check this movie out. So yeah, those are my thoughts on Minions: The Rise of Gru. What are your thoughts of this movie? Let me know down below in the comment section. Give me a point of reference. What's your favorite Despicable Me film? I'd love to hear it down below in the comment section, and stay tuned. I have a review for The Gray Man coming up soon, as it's about to drop on Netflix in a few days. Really can't wait for that. And so as a video about Solo: A Star Wars Story, as I finally get closer and closer to doing a Star Wars ranking video. So hopefully you guys will stay tuned for those two reviews coming up. And don't forget to follow me on social media. My username is down below at the bottom of the screen and in the description below. So please go do that while you're at it. And thank you guys so much for watching. And don't forget to hit that like button and the subscribe button, and stay tuned for more.
Minions assemble!